Hello everyone. The moment the mother stepped forward, opening her arms to welcome Long, the policeman, the boy's biological father, suddenly knelt down on the ground, bursting into tears. Please don't take the boy away. A sentence that made everyone speechless. Between the mother, who returned after many months of being missing, and the father, who already had a new family, who will Long choose? The truth made everyone choke up. The early morning sunlight filtered through the forest canopy. The mist still lingered on the wild grasses along the road. The sound of forest birds chirped, mixed with the rustling of dry leaves under the footsteps of people walking early. Sinnhat, a small woman with tan skin, was bending over the hillside, diligently digging each young bamboo shoot that had just emerged from the moist ground. With each hoe stroke, with each light dig, Sinnhat did it very carefully. Young bamboo shoots are fragile, but they are also her rare source of income this season. She did not complain, just bowed her head to work, her face showing experience and hard work. Her clothes were worn out, her hands were calloused, but her eyes were unusually bright, as if something was waiting. Sinnhat wore an old hat, her back drenched in sweat, bending over a bamboo root to pick young bamboo shoots. Her son walked beside her, the bamboo basket swaying with each step. "Mom, keep trying. A few more bushes and it's enough," the boy shouted happily, his eyes sparkling. In the blazing summer sun, mother and son were still diligently and persistently gathering every bit of hope from the deep forest. Having picked a full basket, Sinnhat and his son carried bamboo shoots to the village market. The sun was hot, the road was long, and sweat soaked their backs, but the mother and son still happily chatted the whole way. The fresh bamboo shoots sold for a good price. Sinnhat bought some rice, a bottle of cooking oil, and a small lollipop for his son. On the way home, the boy kept chattering about the market, his eyes sparkling with joy. When he got home, the simple kitchen was warmed by laughter and the smell of freshly cooked rice in the peaceful summer afternoon. After the storm last night, Sinnhat's small house became a mess. Broken dishes were scattered everywhere. Together, mother and son carefully picked up each intact dish and plate, neatly arranging them on the shelf. The little boy helped his mother wipe each dish with an old cloth, his small hands, clumsy but full of enthusiasm. Sinnhat looked at his son, smiled gently, his heart filled with gratitude for having his son by his side. Even though things were difficult, being together, everything seemed less heavy. After a while of cleaning, the mother and son finally finished arranging everything in the small house. They sat on the porch, breathing a sigh of relief, enjoying the cool afternoon air. The boy leaned on his mother's shoulder, eyes half closed in a sense of peace. Suddenly, the familiar sound of a car rang out from the small road ahead. Hang, the husband, father, and also the main breadwinner in the house walked home after a hard day's work. His smile brightened the space, bringing new hope to the family. As soon as she got home, Hang sighed and looked at her wife, then gently asked, "Were you tired from picking bamboo shoots this morning?" His eyes were full of worry and concern. Sinnhat just smiled, hiding his fatigue. "Just a little tired. I also helped my mother a lot." Hang walked over, gently stroked her messy hair, and whispered, "I know you've endured a lot. Keep trying. Our whole family will overcome all difficulties." Hang looked at the mother and son, smiled warmly, then stood up and said in a gentle voice, "You and Long wait for me a bit. I will go change clothes and then take you to eat. We need to eat to have strength to wait for the coming days." Sinnhat nodded. A tired but hopeful smile appeared on her face. Long excitedly shouted, "Let's go eat, Mom." Just as the family was about to leave, they heard footsteps tiptoeing outside the door, causing both of them to suddenly freeze. Hyan walked in, her face pale, her eyes filled with an unquenchable sadness. As soon as she saw Hyan, Hang immediately spoke in a choked voice mixed with anger. "Why did you come here? This is my house and my wife's." Hyan was unfazed, her eyes still filled with longing. "I miss you so much. I can't live without you, so I came to find you." Sinnhat sat beside her, quietly observing the confrontation, his heart sinking at each word that cut like a knife into his heart. Hang's voice was firm and uncompromising. "Are you crazy? I already have a wife, a new family. I only love my wife." Sinnhat. Hyan laughed coldly, as if wanting to cut off all hope. "If that's the case, then give me back the child. I will raise Long myself. I don't need you to raise him anymore." Hyan's words were like a bomb exploding in the small house. Hg's eyes were red, her voice harsh. "There's no way you'll let me take the child away. Long is your child. your flesh and blood. I have no right to do that. Hein shouted. How could you abandon your child? For all these years, you left me alone to suffer with my adopted child. Now that you have a new family, have you forgotten everything? Sinnhat trembled, tears welling up in her eyes. She hugged HGG tightly, as if wanting to protect the whole small family from this emotional storm. HGG looked straight into Hein's eyes, her voice stern but full of determination. I haven't forgotten, and I've never abandoned Long. But you chose to leave, leaving me to shoulder everything. Now, I will do everything to keep the child by my side and this family. You have to understand that. The atmosphere in the small house seemed to thicken. Hang and Hein sat across from each other, their eyes like two blades waiting to pierce through the newly peaceful shell. You have no right to keep the child. Hein gritted her teeth, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. He is my biological child. I gave birth to him. I raised him. Now that I have come, you must return him to me. Hang clenched her fists, her eyes sparkling with anger and despair. You hid it from me, gave birth to him, raised him to adulthood, then told me to bring him back to live with me. We were gradually developing feelings for each other. Now you come back to steal my child just because you feel deprived? Do you dare to ask him? Hein's voice rose. Ask him who he wants to live with. Hang was stunned. He turned to his son, his voice lowered. Long, tell me, who do you want to live with? Long trembled, his eyes wet. The boy looked at his father, then at the woman who used to be his mother, then at Sinnhat, the person who had taken care of him in his mother's place. I just want to live with both my father and mother. Long's voice faltered as if about to break. Hang shook her head, her voice choked but determined. I can't, Long. You have to choose. Live with your father or your mother. A deadly silence stretched on. Hein didn't say anything, just stared at her son, her hands clenched until they were white. Long sobbed. He looked at Hang one last time, then choked. I choose my mother. A lightning strike seemed to strike Hang's heart. He stood still, his lips slightly pursed, his eyes red but not a single tear fell. So what? Hein smiled coldly. Her eyes swept over Hang like a victor. She bent down to stroke Long's hair and then turned to speak, her voice full of challenge. See, Hang? He chose me. No matter how hard you try to paint happiness, he still returns to his biological mother. Hang silently hugged Long, squeezing him tightly as if wanting to hold him one last time. I'm sorry, he whispered in his son's ear, then turned away, quietly walking into the room to pack his son's things. Meanwhile, Hein glanced at Sinnhat with disdain, her lips curled up in sarcasm. You're really good. There's only one regret: you can't give birth to Hang's child. If a woman can't give birth, how can she keep him? Sinnhat paused, his eyes filled with tears, but he still tried to stay calm. Long walked out of the room with a sad face, his eyes red and swollen after holding back tears. The boy didn't say anything, just quietly walked towards Sinnhat, then hugged her for a long time. I'm sorry, Mother Nhat, Long mumbled, his voice choked. I don't want to go anywhere, but my biological mother told me to come back. Sinnhat lowered his head to his son's shoulder, tears falling continuously. She hugged him tightly, as if wanting to keep a little bit of warmth for the last time. Hang walked in front of her son. He put his hand on Long's shoulder, his voice low, but full of love and pain. You are my son, so live strong. When you're with your mother, you have to be good, polite, don't talk back. But remember, if you're sad, if you're tired, if you feel like no one understands you, then come back to me. Long burst into tears, hugged Sinnhat again, then let go. He followed his mother out the door. Each step seemed to break a string of attachment. Hang stood frozen in front of the porch, watching her child's figure disappear down the slope. The wind blew, carrying with it the broken heart of a father who had just lost the most precious thing in his life. The gate closed. Long and Hein's figures gradually disappeared at the end of the alley. Hang still stood still as if turned to stone. The rustling afternoon wind blew, carrying a cold feeling to her heart. His eyes were red, staring into the distance, as if hoping that his son would return. But he didn't. He had chosen to leave. The first tears of that strong man fell. Hang never thought that one day he would have to send his son away like that. I'm sorry, Long, he whispered, his voice broken. I wasn't good enough to keep you. Sinnhat quietly put his skinny hands gently around her husband's shoulders. One hand trembled as it stroked down his back, a silent touch, but filled with love. She could not speak words of comfort like any other wife. She only had eyes, hands, and a heart full of emotions. Hang turned to look at her wife. When he saw her eyes wet but not resentful, he seemed to break down. After hours of pain that seemed impossible to recover from, Hang squeezed sinnhat's hand as a silent thank you. They were no longer in the mood to go out to eat as planned. Instead, the two quietly prepared their tools and then went to the fence behind the garden to cut some bamboo to build a trellis. Sinnhat rolled up his sleeves, walked gently but resolutely, his eyes still red but less gloomy. Hang carried the bundle of bamboo on her shoulder, occasionally turning to look at his wife, the woman who did not say a word, but was always a solid support for him. After finishing the trellis, the two of them put away the bags of corn that had been dried for the past few days. The smell of dry straw, the smell of sunlight, and the smell of bamboo dust wafted through the wind, making Hang's heart somewhat calmer. No one said a word, but every action, every touch, every look, all represented an important thing. We still have each other, and tomorrow, we will continue to live.